PLD Projects presents Holy Snokes, a Star Wars podcast featuring PLD and Matty Gunner. May the Force be with you, always. It's a very, very sad day here in the Holy Snokes podcast. Gonna pour one out for our homeboys. Welcome.
JP, I love you, buddy. You're a dick for that.
Putting tech on the thumbnail, is that what you're saying?
And you're a dick for asking him to do it.
How could I not? How could I not? Welcome, everybody, to PLD Project. Welcome to the second episode of Holy Snokes this week. We definitely needed one separate episode. Yesterday, covering The Mandalorian, we needed a whole separate episode to cover what was a very heart-wrenching two-part Bad Batch season finale. Matty's still crying in his beers. I'm not too far behind that. Matty, my friend, I hate to ask how you are. I know my sidekick, Matty.
You know how I'm doing. I'm not doing good. I'm not doing okay. This wounded me. Even though I saw it coming. I said on this show that it was going to happen multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
I said to multiple friends, like, this is probably what's going to happen. I even said it on this show that I am preparing for the worst.
Well, you
the
got
worst fucking happened, and I'm still not ready for it.
It's funny. I got to say, off the top of my head, we're going to get all into it and break it all down. But there's something about Star Wars animation and the way that story team works, from Filoni all the way down through.
Don't say his name. Don't even say his name.
And this isn't even really on him. He just approved. This is more Brad Rao and Jennifer Corbett and that crew at this point.
The apple don't fall pretty far from the fucking tree, does it?
They're all to blame, but they really, it's true. They really strike a chord, and I got to tell you, I've probably gotten more emotional feels out of the animated content, even in the action than the live action content. To be honest with you, that's how well these have done for us. And I'm a huge fan of all the content, even the live action stuff as well. But this one took the cake a little bit. It was a little hard to deal with. Not gonna lie.
I was crying in the gym watching a cartoon. Do you have any idea? Just picture the visual of that.
A grown man, a professional fighter, you can kick your ass and you're balling like a little boy, a little baby.
Over a cartoon. So everyone, this like, oh, the Bad Batch isn't great. The Bad Batch is mid. Blah blah blah. Shut up.
I did the same. Actually, I came home from work. A lot of times, a lot of you guys don't know. I work overnight, and I take my lunch break right around the same. Like I happen to have my lunch break usually at 3:00 in the morning, which is when it comes out for me. I usually get to take my lunch and then I watch it. And
would that not be your breakfast?
We always call it lunch or dinner. It doesn't matter. It's a meal, whatever. I don't do.
What about second breakfast?
I don't think we have second. We should get second breakfast. Yeah. I like you're pulling Lord of the Rings quote like section. That's pretty impressive. You do that more and more. I think you're becoming a closet Lord of the Rings fan. I think there's a little bit of a Rings fan in you. We're gonna get that out of you at some point. But I today for this one, I knew we had Mandalorian and we had 2 episodes of Bad Batch. So I decided, what? I have a lot of time. I'm going to take it off. I'm going to go home, enjoy myself without having to worry about going back to work. I came home, poured myself a whiskey, sat down, and I put a big screen on, and I started watching. And my God, I made the mistake. Like a lot of people did. I watched The Mandalorian first. I should have watched Bad Batch first. Because I was definitely having some emotional damage by the end of it. I too had the tears flowing. I don't think I've ever felt more like a wrecker in my life. I actually said at the same time Wrecker did. I went, "Don't you do it, Tech? Don't you do it?" But he did. And you know what? We're gonna get into it. I
wasn't like Wrecker. I was just a wreck.
All right. Well, we are gonna get into that Bad Batch finale. Obviously, I'm sorry if you got spoiled, but I mean, you should have watched the episode definitely breakdown of the episode, of the final episode. So, but if this is your first time here, please click that like, click that subscribe. If you're listening to on the audio, leave that review or like the 5-star rating. Whatever really helps out the podcast. We really appreciate it. We are on the road to 500 subscribers. Slowly but surely, we are making our way there. This is one of the greatest shows I get to be a part of. I love doing Holy Snokes every week, and I love getting it to do twice a week. And hell, I have to do a Star Wars talking 3 times a week this week because I got to be on Christian Harloff's the Sith Council with Steph Sabral yesterday. That was quite an experience as well. Yeah. But first up, though, before we go into the Bad Batch, we always try to do some news. Yesterday, we left a few news pieces off. We knew we were coming today to have a few more pieces of news to go for today. We also had another news piece drop. So without further ado, before we get into the Bad Batch finale, let's get into a few of these news articles that I curated from Star Wars News Net. Love these guys. They really have what takes it to make on a good Star Wars page. They curate the news well. It's always, you can tell, it's a news, rumor, fact, fiction. They're very good at like reading the tea leaves and letting you know what you should believe and what you should take with a grain of salt. Tea leaves, exactly. The first one I just want to mention, I didn't mention it yesterday, the Jedi, the first Star Wars Young Jedi Adventure shorts have dropped, introduces the series and the Jedi Younglings. Obviously, this is for Disney Junior. This is your very young kids show, even younger than Resistance. So this might not be your cup of tea per se, but it's always good to have this stuff in there. This is how we get future generations of Star Wars fans. I did watch them through. They're very cute. If I had younger kids, I'd be sitting them down in front of them going, look at this, get into this.
I was going to say, my young nephew, Oliver, has told me that he enjoyed them very much.
Good. They are very cute. So again, you see High Republic era Jedis at this point. It's nice to see little animated High Republic era, even if it's the youth
Okay, more High Republic era stuff, huh?
Yeah. It is interesting to see because I know that there's 3 phases of the High Republic, like the whole media.
The publishing initiative, yeah. There's only 3 phases,
as far as we know. So unless they're going to go out further, who knows? But I have a feeling after that's done, we might start getting some more possible series and animated series and things like that in that era. I wouldn't be surprised at all. But yeah, it's pretty cool. So that's all. Touch base on that. The other pieces of news dropped here. We had Ahsoka news. We had actor Mark Rolston join the cast as Captain Hale. Now, this was a Facebook post from Star Wars Autograph Universe. A user had posted a picture of an Ahsoka poster that Mark Rolston signed and included the name of his character, Captain Hale. Now, I just have to throw this out there. Star Wars fans are notorious for doing deep dives, even when deep dives aren't needed. And I include myself in that. I'm not blaming anybody for that. It could very well, like, I just seen some chatter like, oh, is this like the Pelion replacement? Is this who that is? Or is this somebody, who is this guy and everything else? And part of me goes, well, this might not be anybody. This might be like a guy with a couple lines, might be like just a random person there. It might not even be like that big of a character. Yeah, we're going to make him big. But the one thing I do want to say is I love Mark Rolston. The guy has been around forever. He is like one of those guys like that you looking like, oh, he was in that. Oh, this guy was in Lethal Weapon 2. This guy was in Alien.
Like Ed Harris.
1986. Kind of like Ed Harris. Although I feel like Ed Harris is a little more known. I would like this guy more to like Walton Goggins or like something like that. Something like that. Perhaps Michael Biehn would be a great comparison. It's a great comparison. He's just in a lot of the Saw movies, Eraser, Daylight, RoboCop 2, TV. He's in like Star Trek Generation episodes. He's in
Rush Hour.
Curb Your Enthusiasm. He was also in Rush Hour. That's very true. He's just one of those kind of dependable actors. In that way, he's like Ed Harris. He's like one of those dependable actors. You know, you're getting some good talent in there to fill out the sidelines as well. So I'm very happy.
A great movie, perfect and a somewhat unbearable thing watchable.
Absolutely. Also, he does have some Star Wars credit. He was the voice of Senator Dagonet in the Tales of the Jedi series there. Recently, the senator, the Dooku episode.
Oh yeah.
So that was also Mark Rolston. So there we go with that. Any thoughts on Mark Rolston joining the crew on Ahsoka?
I don't know. I mean, it's a poster signed by the guy, but I've got a Metallica ticket signed by the frontman of Megadeth. So it could be anything. And I know that's a cardinal sin. Some people are probably going to hear that and be like, "Why the fuck did you do that?" Because I can, and it was funny. Yeah, I think at the moment, who knows what his character is, but I'm willing to bet that Lucasfilm are trying to keep it G-14 classified.
As they always do, as they always do. All right, yeah, like that's a good little piece of news. I like that. I like the little driplets we're getting from these things. Obviously, with Celebration coming, that faucet's about to be turned on a bit. A piece of news we got there was from the Acolyte. Acolyte Jodie Turner Smith. Obviously, the best. Almost all the dripping we get is when actors are promoting other projects, and then somebody's just inevitably asked, "Oh, you're in Star Wars. Talk about that." And usually the answer is, well, I can't talk about that, but I'll try to give you a little something. And they do that. A few quotes that Jodie had while promoting Murder Mystery 2. She was talking to Collider and also discussing film had reported about director Kogonada as one of the directors that they worked with, says she worked with. And she said this. Obviously, the subject matter is different. It's different when everything that you're doing is lighthearted, and that's not what I was doing for Star Wars. But I was working with my favorite director that I worked with so far, Kogonada, and under the leadership of Leslie Headland. It is incredible to see, and I can't wait to see how this show turns out. She did not get to work with the series lead Amanda Stenberg, which leads me to believe that her role is probably of a more supporting role or a sideline character, which is fine. But she did get to watch some of it and said Amanda Stenberg is such an incredible performer. I unfortunately didn't have any scenes with her, but I got to see a little bit of what they've been doing, and I think it's going to be epic. And it's nothing that anyone has seen before inside of that universe. And finally, the most intriguing quote to me, they talked about a couple of things, and she confirmed she's not playing a Jedi and did not get to wield a lightsaber. Her direct quote was, "I didn't get to use a lightsaber, but I did not get to use a lightsaber." I don't necessarily know.
I didn't get to use a lightsaber, but I did not get to use a lightsaber.
Get to use a lightsaber. So I think there might be an
It's the
interesting.
same thing.
Maybe there's a new weapon or something to that effect, and she's trying to liken it to a lightsaber potentially.
So did she say she didn't not use a lightsaber?
It says, but I did not get to use a lightsaber. So I'm guessing maybe that she's trying to use a lightsaber. Maybe there's a light knife or something. I don't know. Maybe something like that.
Like a vibroblade kind of a
Perhaps deal? Could be something to that effect. Maybe she has to battle against someone with a lightsaber. I don't know. Any thoughts on those quotes from Jodie?
I mean, I love that it's not lighthearted. Mm-hmm. Seems to be the kind of, and it adds to. I was thinking about this yesterday. I want to ask you this. We're going to take a little tangent for a second.
Oh, here we go. Buckle up, everybody.
Don't answer it straight away. Like,
okay.
Contemplate it for a second before you answer. Is Star Wars? How do I phrase this right? Is the main audience of Star Wars still young children? Or is that now the job of the MCU?
I kind of feel you're asking two different things in a way. Are kids gravitating towards Star Wars, and the second part of that being,
are young children the primary focus group?
I don't. Should they be or shouldn't they be? I always felt that Star Wars was at its best when it serviced both. It serves both. Mm-hmm. I think the original trilogy is for adults, but there's definitely also for young kids, adventuresome. I find that I love that we're getting so much Star Wars in a way because we can afford to do things that are more geared towards the adult audience and geared towards a younger audience. Whereas before, when you had a trilogy come out, you had 3 movies, you had to kind of hit that right in the middle. Mm-hmm. As we have 5, 6 series and movies coming out, you can kind of go, okay, I can hit that in the middle. But I can also go, I can take a little experiment. I can do an Andor, which is definitively more towards adults. Mm-hmm. So it has some silly moments. There's not going to lie. But you can also do a younger audience show as well, which I think Skeleton Crew might end up being a little more geared towards younger. I don't know. I mean, just because the Amblin feel makes it feel like it's going to be more of a youth-driven show, potentially.
But again, Jay Watt said it's a show. This is a quote from him. It's a show with kids, but it's not a show for kids.
Right.
I'm wondering if, they're going to put out stuff like this. these new animated shorts and stuff. And this was actually spun off of our conversation yesterday. I'm wondering if now, because the prequel generation, my generation, we've now grown up with Star Wars. They are like, okay, the audience has now grown with the product. The MCU are doing a good job of keeping the younger audience entertained. We got to remember, Lucasfilm and Marvel, they are under the same umbrella. I'm wondering if they have said, okay, the MCU, you can start with stuff like Spider-Man, Ms. Marvel. You can start catering towards the younger audience, while Star Wars like continues to grow up with its audience.
I'm going to disagree to a point. I don't think you're necessarily wrong, but I kind of feel like Star Wars has always been grown in cycles because I'm an original trilogy guy. So I grew up with the original trilogy, and I was part of the generation that had a lot of backlash against the prequels. I never had a problem with the prequels, although I actually love the prequels a lot more now than when I did back in the day. I know other people I know hated the prequels, and I've grown to appreciate it even as I grew older. I kind of feel like it goes in cycles. I think there is a group of kids out there that in about 10 years, 5 or 10 more years, they're going to be the sequel trilogy kids growing up, and that will be their Star Wars. I think it kind of goes that every generation has their own Star Wars. We're going to get sequel, because sequel trilogy right now is, I kind of feel like that's, if like the internet had existed to the degree that it does now back in the prequel era, we would have the same discourse that we have with the sequel trilogy, because we had that for the most part. It just wasn't as widespread. We had the internet, but it wasn't like as wide, like not as, wasn't the main form of communication, as it were. I kind of feel like that's the same thing going to happen. 5-10 years from now, we're going to have people grow. We already have some sequel trilogy people who are headlong in defending the sequel trilogy. Not that it needs defending, but like there's some people who are apt about, no, this is great, while others are like dismissive of it. I feel like it's going to come in cycles. That sequel trilogy era is going to grow up, and they're going to get more people that way. Now, the other part of that question that you're saying is Star Wars, what are they aiming for? I personally think they should be aiming for what they always aim for. They should be aiming for that, like, all-inclusive, kids and adults can both enjoy it. They should always aim for that. But like I said, also, that's a little hypocritical of what I just said, considering, not hypocritical, but it's a little bit against what I just said when it comes to, we have so many different avenues now that we can afford to branch off a little bit and veer off in one direction or another. And I kind of feel like what the interesting part is are they listening? Is Lucasfilm listening to the loud minority, so to speak? Because there's definitely a vocal set of fan base that wants that. I want that adult, grittier Star Wars. Andor was my Star Wars, because it was, even though I would argue that as much as I loved Andor felt probably like the least like an actual Star Wars project than any of the other live action shows, because it was so dark and gritty and everything else. Not to say I didn't love Andor. Andor was one of my favorite shows of the past year, so I loved watching Andor. I can't wait for season 2, and I even love the tone to a degree. I love that we got that to go with. But I wonder if the people are going to look at that and go, that got critically acclaimed. There's loud people. I mean, there's a loud voice that's saying they like that. Do they want to continue to go that way? I've always been of the mindset that it's like, if you listen to the fans too much, then you're going to find yourself out with them.
Oh yeah, you can't. That's the way of any art form. You can't. Right. You can't write an album that your fans want to listen to. You got to write it that you want to play it. But my thing is, like, you can still do stuff for kids. Evidently, they are still doing stuff with kids with like the new animated stuff. But like, you look at the Bad Batch, that got super dark. Clone Wars, towards the end, it got super dark.
I gotta tell you, it's funny. I watched, like, I mentioned this before in a couple of shows earlier. I've been watching my kid, and my son knows anime. We go back and forth. And I've been getting him through Star Wars, and we have a running joke every time we watch Star Wars. We're in Rebels right now, and we just hit the scene in season 1 not too long ago where the Inquisitor chops off the heads of Commandant Oresco and Miles Grint, and like, we always have a joke when something that happens. We just look at each other and go, "Kid show."
Yeah, right.
Because then it's like one thing, it's like, wow, that was meant for kids, huh? they treat those moments with respect, and I think that I don't think I'm not even criticizing it, saying it's not a kid's show. The other way around, actually, I'm saying they have respect that the kids can handle this kind of thing, can handle the dark moments, which I like.
And I'm wondering if that's also what it could be, because like, and we'll get back onto the news topic. I just wanted to like see what you thought about that point of the internet has made information so readily available for kids these days that I wonder if the kind of fantasy and adventure element is kind of not really what they're looking for these days.
I don't know. I don't really know. It's hard.
This is me being an older man now, being like, oh, these kids these days, they don't know what they want. But I'm just wondering if it's like, is the product growing with the audience?
I kind of feel like that's a question you ask yourself, but at the same time, things will take care of themselves as well. I don't think. I mean, Star Wars and Marvel and a bunch of people. There's a definite worry, but there's definitely under consideration. Is there an oversaturation? Is there so much, because we have the movies, we have all these TV shows? Like, what is too much? Is there? And Marvel's been downgraded recently. It seems like Marvel's had last couple of films have come out and people haven't been as into it, so to speak. I think that, again, I think a lot of this comes and goes in waves. I think you take a pause, you step back, you see what's working, you see what's not working, and you just kind of redirect yourself. I think of Star Wars and Marvel, while they're not Teflon proof, when you reach that level, you can afford to try some things out, and you can afford to have a misstep or two, because it's always going to be there to come back. I mean, like, for example, the prequels were defined by an era that a lot of people didn't. Again, it was very divisive. George Lucas basically almost didn't want to come back to make movies after that, understandably, because they were so vociferous. And yet, when 2015 rolls around, we got a Star Wars movie back in the theaters. Holy shit, was it the news intense again? So you take a step back, it's always going to be an audience that's there for it. I think it's just a matter of building up the interest and then maintaining the interest. And hell, already Rise of Skywalker was probably the most divisive film we've had in the Star Wars franchise for a while. Actually, and I'm gonna be honest, I mean, let's call it what it is. There's a large vocal set of fans who really did not like Rise of Skywalker. I was not one of them. I thought it was fine. I didn't think it was my favorite Star Wars movie, but I thought it had a lot of good moments, and I'll gladly put it on with the rest of the saga. Yet they stepped back it's been 2019. That feels like it's an age ago now. We're in 2023, and we're not going to have a movie till it sounds like 2025. I mean, again, that's nothing announced. Still nothing announced yet. That's what they've been saying, but 2025. So 6 years between movies, and I feel like there's a lot of people chopping at the bit to get Star Wars back in the theaters again. So I think there's always a place that you can redevelop it and change things slightly. I think what you do is take a look at the original trilogy, you take a look at the prequel trilogy, take a look at the sequel trilogy, take a look at what worked, what stoked with it, and you try to find that balance where everything's mixed up, where you get that the adults can go on the adventure, the kids can go on the adventure, and if it's there, then the kids will come. The kids will come, because these are all kind of like archetype type adventures, mythological stories, the hero's journeys. These are things that don't go out of style. It just depends on how you tell the story. You might have to tweak it here and there how you tell the story, but I think it's always going to be there.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I'm sure, like, as I said, there'll always be stuff for kids. I'm just wondering if, like, Lucasfilm are now being like, okay, we know where our main audience is. We got to start, like, if we want to generate revenue, if we want to generate more success, we got to start moving to where our primary audience is right now.
I feel like you're basing this partially on Stephen Knight.
Right? And actually, no, it's on a lot of things. It was the that was a factor.
Okay.
But there's also the Acolyte. It's a dark side martial arts mystery thriller that is it's meant to be very dark. You have Andor, which is a political suspense thriller, very dark. The Bad Batch, super dark towards the end. It's just like, I think it was Filoni that was like, you can make stuff for kids, but not like treat them like kids.
Right.
But at the same time, I'm like, I'm not even ready to watch Andor again. Let alone like sit my niece or nephews down in front of it. I'm not even ready to watch it again. I'm probably going to need another like 6 months to a year before I'm ready. Before I'm like, okay, I can sit and I can watch Andor full again. Like I'm going to need time. I'm going to need time to watch this episode, to watch this arc of the Bad Batch again.
True, but in that case, also is one arc of the Bad Batch. The rest of the Bad Batch is pretty much adventurous and a lot of fun adventure and stuff. And there's a lot of stuff there for Star Wars as well. Mandalorian is still pretty much a fun adventure. There's some emotional moments, but still a fun adventure. I think Ahsoka will be a fun adventure. It'll have some emotional moments for sure. But I see what you're saying. What was that?
Not if it's like Crouching Tiger.
Well, I don't know. I think Crouching Tiger was very adventure and fun. I had a lot of fun watching that. I mean, dark moment, but like
flying through trees and
yeah, all kind of stuff. So I see what you're saying. It's an interesting viewpoint. But I think we'll always kind of find our way home, so to speak. I think Acolyte will be a mystery thriller, but I think there'll be some more adventure in there than you really consider. Andor really seems to be the only one that's really that dark and gritty. I would be surprised if Acolyte didn't have a little bit more of the adventure in it. I mean, it's a dark side story. It's a mystery thriller, so I guess we'll find out. I guess we're gonna find out. But
because like we've got Star Wars for adults now. We've got Dune. Like that Dune is the Star Wars for adults. Like so that my thing is like I'm all for it. I'm all for them doing more dark and gritty, but at the same time, there's still that little kid even in me that's like, where's Jar Jar? Where's BB-8 sticking the thumb up?
Right.
Where are the Anzellans?
I honestly think we get that with the movies, and that's my thought process on that, because I always felt like the TV is where they could experiment more, and the movies are, even the sequel trilogy always were full of those moments. And even with Stephen Knight directing, I still feel like you got the Ms. Marvel director who filled that role very well. I feel like you're going to get a lot of that kind of adventure feel from a lot of movies we've talked about, because even beyond the big 2025 one, Taika Waititi film is going to be like that. You're going to have a lot of fun and adventure there. If it is true that Levy,
unless he does a Jojo Rabbit,
right? There you go. Sean, I like that. Sean Levy's directing, getting involved in one that's a very much that kind of same. I mean, Free Guy, same kind of vibe you're looking at.
Yeah.
So I feel like you're going to get a lot of that. I mean, from everything we've been talking about, hearing, I think we're definitely going to get that on the movie side of things, and I hope that it's accepted. I think it will be accepted. I think there's, like I said, it's a vocal minority, and they can be very loud, and they can be very drowning out of other opinions sometimes. But you know what? It's like, we got to just love what we love, and keep hoping that Lucasfilm will continue to strive to make something that's accessible for everybody. I don't think they'll fall away from that completely. I don't think so. I think we will get more experiments. We'll get more attempts to do other stuff. They'll do their best to try to please everybody as best they can without completely sacrificing the plot, so to speak. So,
yeah.
But that's a good conversation. I'm actually very happy you asked that. It's kind of
it was just something that popped up in my head last night before I went to sleep, and I was just like, remember to ask Paul that tomorrow.
No, fair enough. All right, one more piece of news that dropped that I want to touch base on before we go into our Bad Batch breakdown. Skeleton Crew, we're getting the drips and drabs of who's directing the Skeleton Crew. We had the Daniels directed one episode. We have another director now. Reportedly, the Green Knight director, David Lowery, also, of course, directed The Old Man and a Gun. He's directing Peter Pan and Wendy, the live action film on Disney Plus. It's coming out this month, or next month, rather, I should say, a month from now, April 28th. And a critically acclaimed film that some people found pretentious, but I got to tell you, it's one of my favorite films of the 2010s, which is A Ghost Story. Definitely very experimental, very into it. He's a very creative guy, definitely someone who he's got talent, and that's the kind of thing you want to see in Star Wars. I like this pick. For what it's worth, I love directors getting episodes, because to me, it's like it's not a long-term commitment. You don't have to worry about this being a movie or something. This is just one around. If you don't like the episode that he did, move on to the Daniels directing the next one, kind of thing. It's one of those kind of situations. So you get people like this who can come in, hopefully get their touch on an episode. Sometimes you can find some very interesting things that happen with it. So I'm very excited. I hope we get. I would love to get like 6, however many episodes there are. I hope there's that many kind of directors that are all really talented people like this. Really talented film directors are coming. Let's do an episode here, no episode there. Although I'm sure we'll get a couple of the director crew that they've already kind of like helmed the men over to get the
Bryce Dallas
Howard, Deborah Chow, Rick Famuyiwa, kind of thing. I'm sure I'll get their hands on one. Peyton Reed will probably get one here and there. I'm sure John Watts will probably get at least one himself since he's pitching the idea. I
love John Watts.
No, he's pitched. I mean, he's really the showrunner, so I'm sure he'll get involved at some point. So, it sounds pretty cool at this point. I like that idea. I think I like this idea. I also want to throw in there, in that article that I read on Star Wars Newsnet, something I had missed. Just the timeline of the series matches that of The Mandalorian, which we kind of knew. But Jon Favreau had already implied that season 4 of The Mandalorian will also include characters from Skeleton Crew. Like he's already kind of flat out said that. I mean, we kind of knew it was coming if they're going to start branching out but have this arced story with all these shows together. But it's nice to see that confirmed more. What are your thoughts on this? Do you like Lowry? Have you seen a lot of stuff?
I haven't, but then you mentioned he's done the Peter Pan.
He's doing Peter Pan.
That's perfect. Because if you think about what this is like Amblin, this is a bunch of children, the Lost Boys, right?
Yeah.
It's exactly what. Obviously, I'm not a massive fan of the live action Disney adaptation, but the story of Peter Pan is about kids that are forced to grow up pretty quickly, even though they don't want to.
Yeah.
So
absolutely,
that ties into what we believe Skeleton Crew to be about. I love 100%. All of the rumors about the acclaimed child actor Jude Law playing Lor Santeca. I think that could be pretty sweet if that's true.
I like that idea as well. Although at this point, I've kind of come to the point like he's not playing Lor Santeca because everybody assumes it at this point. It's like at Star Wars fans to its core, somebody floated a theory. I was like, it's got to be Lor Santeca. That makes too much sense. And we get there, it's not. We're like, what? How is it not Lor Santeca?
How did that rumor even come about?
I don't even know. I honestly think it was.
He kind of look like him, like a younger him.
Rumor. I think somebody. I can't remember where it came out either, but I honestly believe it came to the point of, well, we know that Lor Santeca is an explorer, and this kind of character sounds like an explorer. The timeline kind of matches up a little bit. You're kind of like, oh, so maybe it's Lor Santeca.
So it's clutching at straws.
Absolutely, it's clutching at straws. We have nothing that has ever indicated anything except for it's a male. It's a male actor playing an explorer, which we know Lor Santeca is. That's about it. It's basically, it's like saying he's a male and he wields a lightsaber. He must be playing Luke Skywalker. Kind of thing. That's what it feels like to me, anyway. Let me know in the comments if there's actually anything out there with anything more than that. Let me know because I don't know where else it came from.
If it is true, I think he is probably a great match, especially from like his time as Watson. I think he would be. I think that's a great comparison between two. But
hey, if it ends up being Lor Santeca, I'm all for it. I'd love to get more story pieces, and that would definitely tie the great universe together to a degree. I always hate, like we've said it before, there's always this question whether is something making the universe too small, or is it actually just tying the universe together a little bit? And I've always thought that people clutch pearls over making the universe too small. I've always thought, well, I like connecting these pieces. I like having these connections where we can see, oh, this is where this person was at the time. This is where this person was at the time. And not that it has to happen, but people I think people complain about it when it does happen a little too much. If this is Lor Santeca, I think it makes a perfect connection to what we know about. He wasn't exactly a major character in The Force Awakens. He had 5 minutes of screen time in The Force Awakens, and then people mentioned him with Luke as far as what he did with Luke. So I like to learn more about those kind of characters. That's how you branch out in a good way. I think you always can branch out a little bit further. The more you go along, the further maybe somebody in the Skeleton Crew will be a new character, and we'll get a Lor Santeca type character who has like 10 minutes of screen time in Skeleton Crew. And then later on, we'll get a story from them later on. And it's just how you can build the universe out while keeping those connective roots. Is it okay to take a wild swing and do something like maybe like the Acolyte sounds like it's going to be, where it has no ties to anything? Yeah, absolutely. I get that too. That's kind of cool too. But give me a connected universe. I love it. I love seeing more about where it goes, where this is going. So, all right. Any last thoughts on Mr. Lowry, or shall we move on to our heart wrenching?
Let's get it over with. I'm tired of talking about this show.
All right, you have barely even talked about it
yet. I'm done. Exactly. That's the point.
Oh, come on. You got to say, even if you're upset by it, you're sad by it, whatever else, it was a very powerful and well done episodes. Both of them were actually very powerful and well done.
No, I'm not. No. I'm not being positive about this. Not this week. No.
Come on, you're the dark side one here. Come on now. You should love this kind of thing.
Just roll
footage.
Go to Honda watch.
Well, we always break things down here via segments on our Holy Snokes podcast, and we eventually do some catch up at the end. In this case, since there were 2 episodes we are breaking down, we're going to kind of do them together as a whole, since it was one long finale storyline. But the first thing we always do is, as Matty mentioned, Honda watch.
Who wants to see Honda? Talk to me.
And this is quite simply, did Hondo Ohnaka make his appearance and make his return to the Star Wars universe this week on the Bad Batch, or whatever episode we're watching? And I'm sad to say, on both episodes, we can say definitively,
this effort is no longer profitable.
Despite a bunch of characters coming back, a bunch of different characters coming back, and a bunch of characters making an appearance, we did not get Hondo Ohnaka.
What a crappy week. We don't get Hondo. We lose Tech.
Matty, you definitely need a therapy bill. I think you definitely need to see your therapist.
What is the company, the BetterHelp?
BetterHelp. That's what it was.
I looked into that. It's £75 a session. That is not enough. David Filoni, you will be getting my therapy bill.
Like I said, it's not even Dave you have to talk to at this point. You have to talk to Brad Rouse, talk to Jennifer Corbett.
I'm pretty sure he
Kevin Kiner.
Didn't he direct this episode? I am fairly certain he directed this episode. I'm looking it up now.
I know he. I don't believe he did. Actually, I believe he's actually been very hands off from everything I've read credit wise. It's been very much more about Brad Rouse directing style, Jennifer Corbett. He definitely, I think, oversees the world's executive producer. But I want to give credit to Brad and Jennifer Corbett and the team, because Dave Filoni is Dave Filoni. But these two have really done a great job, especially this season, really taking it on its own and making its own thing. Well, all right. You know what? While we're doing that, let's get into our next segment, which in this case is the mission briefing.
What do you need, Rex? Any chance I could use you for a mission?
This is our simple. We're going to go point by point, not break down everything, just a kind of summary of the 2 episodes we got. Let's break this down. We begin our first episode, which was called The Summit. We are on Pabu. Tech is there, briefing the rest of the Bad Batch, talking about what he found in the files that Echo brought back. He's looking for a Crosshair on where Crosshair is with Hemlock. We get to find that they don't know much about it. They can't find much information. These characters it's a very hidden, obviously for reasons, as we know. But then Echo comes across and says he's got that knowledge from someone that Hemlock's going to be appearing at the summit meeting with Tarkin and some of the other Imperials on Ariadu, and they decide, well, that's where we can find Hemlock and maybe tag his ship, and maybe can follow him back to where Crosshair is. One more interesting moments at this point was the fact that Hunter did his Hunter thing. Mm-hmm. God, I don't know. Is it worth the risk? And instead of Omega being the voice of reason or voice of conscience, so to speak, it was all of them. I mean, Tech said, yeah. And Tech basically voiced what Omega has said. It's kind of interesting that Tech has learned from Omega at this point. I felt like, he's our brother. We don't leave anybody behind. Wrecker was their child, and Omega kind of like was the third voice, but it was almost like they already spoke for her. And Hunter was pretty affable, saying, all right, let's do it then. You're not wrong. Obviously, record tech or Echo says that Rex is on another mission. Seems to be the the easy. Where's Rex? Oh, he's on another mission. He can't help. He's on another mission. He does a
Where's
lot of.
Cody?
We haven't heard from Cody yet. We still haven't heard from Cody. That's interesting. That's interesting to me. I bet you. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he's with Rex. But either way, or maybe I don't know, because I feel like, I mean, it does lend credence to the fact that maybe he was killed and they just said he ran off. I still think they would have killed him off screen. So I don't know, but either way, they agree to go on the plan. They agree to go on the mission to try to tag Hemlock's ship. We get a nice. This is the moment if you didn't think about it before, this is the moment you really should have known something was going to happen, because we get the old. I
knew.
The old goodbye from the almost lover, so to speak, as Fee comes up and basically says, they have that loving goodbye and almost the "I'll be right back" kind of moment. And actually, the funny thing is, I mentioned when I rewatched it, Omega has that moment with her too. I'll let you know what goes down when I get back. And Omega doesn't necessarily return from this this mission either.
No,
So,
at least she's still alive.
It's true. At least a great moment there. It's perfectly Fee and Tech, and I'm glad Tech got this last moment to shine in this kind of relationship, because this is always kind of a cute, fun relationship. The will they won't they is Tech can understand what's going on
They
here,
did.
kind of thing.
I got to think they did. I hope they did. Just like, even if it was just one time. Let my guy have, let him
let my guy.
No man should go out
that. Right. All right. Well, they do journey to Ariado. They have the typical rebellion kind of intrigue. They got the codes. They get in there. Have to infiltrate Raven's Peak, which is the name of the base. And
I hate that that's such a cool name.
It is a cool name, exactly. Some of my favorite moments here. It seems like a typical Bad Batch mission the whole way through. They have the sequences where they break in there with on the rail car. They shut down some sensors for a little bit. Tech doing his thing, of course. They get inside, and inside we see that not only is Hemlock there, not only is he visiting Tarkin, the summit's full of interesting cameos and guests. We have Hurst Ramadi, who we know from Rogue One. We had Barton Coburn, who, of course, is a Clone Wars admiral, who was around when during the Citadel run on the Clone Wars, when they got Tarkin out, also helps free the Gruten slaves and the slaver angle with the Nigerians, making their conversations. And most interestingly, as voiced by Ben Mendelsohn, we did get Orson Krennic, which is funny because he had only 2 lines or 1 line, and yet they still got Ben Mendelsohn in there. So
I wonder if he actually did the VO for it, or if they kind of just cut and pasted.
You thought maybe from that earlier unreleased stuff from Rogue One potentially.
Yeah,
I guess that's possible, but either that, I'm choosing to believe that he is going to make a bigger appearance next season, and that they just got him in early to do a couple lines here to kind of tease it. We'll find out, I guess. But
I think it was cool when Tarkin asked him for an update on Operation Stardust.
Product.
I was like,
exactly. That's early on. This is an early on Krennic. I
thought they didn't know about. I thought not many Imperials knew about it.
I mean, Tarkin would know. That would make sense, because Tarkin was there right from the beginning. We saw at the end of Revenge of the Sith where Tarkin was there with Palpatine and Vader. So he would definitively know. I mean, he just knows that it's Product Stardust. It's an interesting dialogue they have, because Hemlock is asked to report on what he's doing, which is kind of like we're all like, oh yeah, what are you doing? We don't know exactly what your experiments are. He kind of does a lot of scientific gobbledygook, but doesn't really kind of claim a whole lot, like molecular reformation and things like that. Going, okay, well, what does that necessarily mean? But okay. We break back to the Batch. The Batch is obviously doing their best. Omega obviously is being small, comes in handy again, as she does get the homing beacon attached to the ship. Hunter and Tech had gone off to a different part of the building trying to figure out what was going on with the system. And they noticed that some of the systems were down, kind of confused what was going on. And that's when we discover As we kind of get that bad feeling about this kind of thing, we find some explosives. We're like, oh, they're not alone here. They're not the only ones here. And sure enough, we come face to face with Saw Gerrera and his partisans, who are there to destroy the base, which makes for a very interesting dynamic. I love this whole dynamic because you have the Imperials, you have the threat of the Imperials, you have Hunter and crew who have to tag the ship and let Hemlock go so they can find not only Crosshair but the other clones as well. While Saw is going to saw, so to speak, and he's going to try to destroy. And it doesn't matter who gets in his way. I like seeing different rebellion cells. We have like the Mon Mothma cell, we have the Lothal cell, we have the Bad Batch who aren't even a cell. They're just trying to do what they're supposed to do and what they think is right. And you got Saw's extremism. I love that little hand-me-down, like, little moment where we have Saw saying one thing and Hunter's like, I can't let you do that. We have to do this. Unfortunately, though, we don't get a lot of time to discuss things because the troopers find them. We have a gunfight.
Yeah. It kind of went from bad to worse for me because at first when they were like, oh, another deactivated camera, I was like, oh no. They like someone's like lured them there. Like someone like the ARC troopers are gonna just like maybe Crosshair gave them up after all.
Right.
Like maybe he just like couldn't take the torch anymore and he gave them up. And I was like, oh my god, okay, that I can prepare for because they can probably get out of that. And then I saw and I was like, oh
Chaos.
No. This is not gonna go well.
I had my first thought, same as you. I kind of thought maybe it was Scorch or something that they're going to like take him down that way. But then when I
speak to that motherfucker later.
we get Saw there. The firefight ensues. We get a great action beat there. Wrecker and Omega end up meeting up with Hunter and Tech and Echo. They all kind of get back to the rail car. But Saw gets away in a shuttle. Saw triggers the explosion, not really caring if the Bad Batch got out or not. Very Saw. Saw's going to Saw. While the Imperials are up, Tarkin has a nice little bunker, I guess, up on top, which kind of seems a weird place to have a bunker. So things are going to explode, is still going to fall down. But that's not here nor there. We get a great action sequence where the troopers are fighting with Bad Batch on the rail cars, and Tarkin sends in some air support and everything else. As we jump to the next episode, we're kind of in that's where we kind of break. And the beginning of the next episode is a very big battle sequence, and the thing that is the crux of this week's episode is really Tech has to go try to save the day. He jumps on top of the rail car trying to get the power back after the power surge forces the rail car to stop during the battle sequence. It's we'll talk about it, I'm sure, but it's a well-shot battle sequence, a animated. The score is beautiful. It's a powerful moment. It leads you along that line, and we've been in these situations before, and you kind of feel like they're going to get out of it again, like they almost always do. Tech falls and is able to catch himself with his grappling hook, but they take a long time to do it. But that length they take to do it actually very much works in its favor. And finally, Tech has to sacrifice himself because they can't get him out. They can't get him back up on board, and if they try to get him, the whole car will go down, and Tech's not going to have that.
It was the ending of the Italian Job.
Yeah. Pretty much. That's exactly what it is.
And I now hate the Italian Job, which sucks because I used to love the Italian Job until this episode.
Tech falls. Wrecker and crew is able to get the car going again. They leave. They crash because they get going so fast at this point. Some great dramatic moments. Omega kind of wakes up, but she's stumbling around. So they have this whole sequence where I love the line that the Kiner brothers actually tweeted out before the episode began, which is kind of funny. They really got to tease you with the "I got you, kid." And Wrecker grabs Omega, and they make their way back to Sid because of AZI. Now, I let it go during the watching of it, and but I did kind of have in my mind like they don't have anybody on Babu that they could do. I feel like they got to have a doctor on Pabu, but I guess maybe they trusted AZ more. That's fine, I guess. But they go through my mind like okay. So we get back to Sid's. Omega wakes up and has the emotional moment performance, really wonderful performance by Michelle Ang, and by D. Bradley Baker as well. They're hurt. We're down to Echo, Hunter, and Omega, and Echo and Wrecker. Echo is on the ship. Wrecker and crew are with Omega, and AZ's there doing his AZ thing. Wrecker at the bar, and then we find out that here it comes. Here comes what's been long talked about, Sid's betrayal of the group. She's it's a solid moment, solidly performed. She regrets doing it right from the get-go.
I think she did.
I think she did. I think you're going to find out she did. She did it. It seemed like less about revenge and greed and more about you guys are too hot, and she's self-preservation. She's a coward. And I think that's something we said for her being a coward. I think it's a better angle to go than just you guys effed me over and now I'm gonna pay you back. It was just more of like I can't deal with you guys anymore. This is too much for me, and the Empire's coming down on us. But Hemlock and the Empire come in. Echo is off on his own trying to get back to them. Hunter doing the dad thing again, sending Omega and AZ away. A great conversation between Hemlock and Wrecker and Hunter. They want to try to get Omega. They don't really care about the Bad Batch. They just want Omega. Omega, of course, doesn't follow orders because when have we ever followed orders? And Omega comes back. They have a standoff, but it does not work out in their favor. The Imperials grab Omega. Hunter and Wrecker are able to break free with Echo. At the end, they get Omega. They take her away. Hunter, Echo, and Wrecker stand by and say, we're going to get her back. That's their new mission is going to be getting back no matter what. Hunter being very dynamic about it. One of my favorite moments in the episode when Hunter has that definitive. He's always been kind of back and forth on a lot of things, but when he gets to this point, you're like, it's going to happen. We're going to get her back. We're not going to stop trying until we do. We go back to Mount Tantus, and we discover that Omega had been brought there to kind of twist Nala Se, which we kind of knew that was going to be the case. Then more importantly, Omega is brought back to Crosshair. They meet up. Even though Crosshair is unconscious, she finds Crosshair's able to be with her. And then we get the reveal that, the one that we weren't exactly shocked on, we kind of predicted coming to Emery Carr, was related somehow, although not her mother like I initially possibly thought, but she's her sister. So she's a fellow clone, which makes sense. I think she is. I have a
different theory.
Oh, well, let's hit it. Oh, you want to say it for one of the segments, or do you have a segment you want to talk about?
No, I'll give it here. Why not?
Right,
I'll give it here. I think Django had a daughter.
Oh, interesting.
I think Django had a daughter.
A real daughter.
A real daughter that was still on Camino when he left, and she was taken in by the Kaminoans.
Interesting. That's an interesting angle.
She doesn't look completely identical. And her voice is a little different. So part of me is kind of like, okay, yeah, D. Bradley Baker does a million different voices for each of the clones. I get that. But part of me is also like, they've done so many things with the cloning angle. What could they do that's a bit different?
Well, I will say that I actually do have my own theory that a lot of people jump to the fact that she was a clone, and I was kind of going along with the majority of that. I do wonder, I kind of thought myself that she might not be a clone either, because I kind of feel like it all comes down to what are they trying to do? What is the plan? Because obviously Hemlock says to Nala Se, okay, now you have to, because we have, or else Omega's going to feel the brunt of it. And she's like, what the Emperor wants can't be done. And of course, Hemlock pulls the old Palpatine, will make it legal, make it possible. So what are they trying to do? I mean, we can only piece together so much. Obviously, we know the end game is the Emperor wants what we think the end. I assume the end game has to do with the Emperor coming back, having a clone body of his own. Probably something to do with being able to use the Force with the body.
Yeah.
Probably something about jumping into a clone, having a clone body you can jump into at some point, something to that effect. But also, it feels like part of it has to do with combining two people, splicing together clones to make a new kind of situation here. Because right from the get go, we have Omega as a female, as the female version of Django. If it's a clone, then it would be a male, like Boba Fett. So what did we do to get the female side of things? And I kind of feel like Emery Carr is not a clone. I think Emery Carr is the subject. I think Emery Carr is the other side of things. So I think people perhaps, the Kaminoans were able to splice Django DNA with maybe Emery Carr's DNA in order to get Omega. So it's kind of like a clone. Although it's kind of funny when you say that, because if it's a mixed clone, then is it really a clone anymore? It's more of a new creation. I don't really know, but I feel like that's what's involved. So technically speaking, she would be sisters, as Django is basically, although Boba calls him dad, he's really kind of more of a brother than dad, because he's an exact genetic match. So in a way, I would still be right in that case, even though she's calling her sister, she's actually would be more of her mother, to be honest with you. But I don't know. It's interesting to see if that's the case or not. I don't know. But
either way, a thing of like, where does the cloning of the Zillo Beast fit in? And you mentioned splicing. Hemlock it's a man-made poison.
Yep.
And then you have the legend of the beast Chimera, which was made by the gods from splicing different creatures together.
Right.
Are they trying to like make a clone that's as indestructible as the Zillo Beast?
That could be. I mean, make it a little bit further. I don't know. It's hard to tell.
I have no idea.
There's a lot going on that's going to have to be pieced together. I also do think there is a through line. We have what's going on in Bad Batch. I think that has to do partially with what's going on in Mandalorian and Dr. Pershing and Grogu and what they're trying to do there as well. There is some kind of connective tissue we're not seeing yet, but the groundwork is there. So we can't wait to see more there. But that's it for Mission Briefing. We're going to get into things some more as we go through. The rest of it are our segments, and we'll kind of catch up at the end of anything we missed. But let's go on to our next segment in the review, so to speak. This one we call The Bachelor.
I was hoping for the whole squad, but you'll do.
All right, we have The Bachelor. We're going to do both the first episode, The Summit, and then 99. Who is your Bachelor of the Week, our favorite character of the week, the best character of the week in The Summit, the first episode?
It would be insulting, downright disrespectful for me to not give Tech the Bachelor Award of the week and ultimately of the season.
The season, okay. I didn't know we were doing the season ending.
We're not, but like I've given him the award so many times that like if we were doing a season, it was like text the man, but also just like we one of the conversations that we had was, what is Plan 99?
Right.
And then we found out what it was, and it was sacrificing yourself for the benefit of the team.
Right.
And I was just like, that is not what I expected. But knowing the Bad Batch the way we do, it's kind of what we should have seen coming.
Yeah, absolutely. I also give Tech the Bachelor of the Week for this episode as well. He had the most dialogue that was concerning. He had the great scene with Fee. He had the great sequence, the action sequences. Everything about it was pretty spot on. He had the most important pieces of the episode for me. Yeah, I'll give it to Tech as well. So then moving on to the Plan 99, do you also give this to Tech as well? Even though he's only in there for a couple of minutes, or do you have a different Bachelor?
I don't, and it's going to bleed into my I spec. The character growth, not only of Tech, but of Hunter.
Okay.
In this last bit, this last arc that we've had, has truly been something special, and I'll get more into that when we get to Spec.
Okay, so Hunter is your pick.
Hunter is my pick for the final episode.
I don't disagree. I did choose someone else, but I will echo a lot of things you're saying. Echo, no pun intended. I actually forgot.
My Amazon device is going to go crazy in a second.
During mission briefing, I did forgot to mention that Hunter did have that great moment where Hunter had decided, I guess, after Tech's death and after they figure out what's going on, Hunter has decided Hunter Wrecker and hopefully Omega were going to live on Pabu. They were retired from being soldiers. That was going to be it, which is interesting to me because they still hadn't gotten Crosshair yet. And they were going to still retire. It felt like they were going to retire the whole thing despite not getting Crosshair. That kind of felt a little strange, and Omega was ready to go with it and everything else. But that's how beaten down they were. So it did make a little sense. Of course, they don't get that choice afterwards. But yeah, so I agree that Hunter makes some great moments here and has that great, especially that great speech at the end, or not speech, but that great declarative statement, I should say. But for me, it's going to be Omega. It's going to be Omega this week because, I mean, Tech's death was sad enough and emotional enough and ripped my heart out enough. But what really helped was her performance really sold it even more. Like watching her react to it. And now we've seen this before. It's not the first time we've seen it, but she was heartbroken. And watching her be like, go back. And then when she wakes up at Sis and she still just like has this moments of she can't comprehend it. She can't even conceptualize it. Hunter's trying to stroke her hair and say it's all right. She's like, no, it's not okay. And then she does her thing where she's not going to leave them behind again. She's not going to leave them behind. There's some beautiful moments there. She's grown a lot, even if it's some of the similar beats we've seen before, such as like when Hunter got captured, same type of situation. It still feels like she's matured and she's grown, and she's become a force of her own. So I'm going to give this to Omega this week, I think, or for this last episode, as a companion to the death of Tech, so to speak. It's really good piece, really good piece. So, all right, let's move on. Then I will let you go first then for this one, but Spec.
The ability to speak does not make you intelligent. Now get out of here.
Favorite lines of dialogue from the week. I'll let you go ahead. You said you want to go from your Hunter's piece, so talk about that.
I mean, for the first episode,
okay,
it's one that you said, and it still like sticks me in the heart every fucking time. It's like, since when do we have to follow orders?
Well, that was actually in the second episode.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that's my honorable mention then.
Okay.
But then Hunter said, and I'm not even going to go with the full quote, just one line from it.
Mm-hmm.
Just Hunter saying, "Is that what you'd want?" Because this whole season, it's been what Hunter wants, what Hunter thinks would be best.
Right.
And it's every kid. It's like every kid just wants the like acceptance from their parents, and just like, this is what I want for myself. This is what I want. And for him to just be, and I get it was probably an in the moment thing. They were going to get to Pabu, like stay there for a bit, then he was going to go right back to it, right back to trying to find Crosshair. This was probably just him in the moment, just being like, all right, we're going to do this, but I need you to be strong. I need you to help us get out of here right now.
Right.
But just him, like the character arc of him being very much, no, what I say goes. I'm the leader of the unit. We're going to like go settle down. We're not going to get involved in this rebellion. We're going to find a place to just lay low, retire, get away from this life.
Right.
And it was what he wanted. What he wanted for the team. What he wanted for Omega. And now he's saying, what is that what you want?
Right. That was a very powerful moment. I agree. It was a great choice of words there. It's Hunter's always been about being in control, as leaders are. He's got to be control of the situation, control of the team. It's his responsibility. But for Hunter to make that growth and to kind of let go of that control and say, you know what? Let me see what you want. Is that something that you want to do? And we're there for you. And it'd be interesting if she had said no. If she had said no, that I want to continue, would they have continued? I don't know. It's interesting to see what would have happened. But it's a great, great, great moment. I do appreciate that as well. So since you kind of for the first episode, did you have another line of dialogue as a backup potential, or did you just kind of go no both? It's fine if you want to stick with the other one.
I'll go with the Operation Stardust line.
Okay, there you go.
Just
Okay,
I thought that was pretty like.
Okay,
cool.
That's fair.
Cool.
That's fair. For me, I'm going to go into. I'll do actually the second episode first as well. I point blank it was when have you ever followed orders? It was just so perfectly done. It wasn't just delivery. It was the lack of music at that point. The music score was brilliant, beautiful, as Kiner was always do. Had the moment you could hear the desperation in their voice. It's actually a part 1 and part 2 line because we sense the desperation. You can see Omega's face. You can see Hunter through the mask get away. Like they're all like they obviously tell this is not. They don't know how they're going to get out of this one. It feels like the first time. I almost always feel like they know what they're doing. I go back to like the Ipsium mining things, and you had the look between Hunter and Omega. They know how they're going to get out of it. We're all good. They're very confident about it. You can tell like I don't know how we're going to get out of it. All we see is like Imperial's here. We get the ships coming here. We're firing the things coming.
When I saw the V-wings, when I heard the V-wings, I was like, oh fuck.
Right, exactly. So that moment comes in, and then I love the line. It's a 2-part line from when you have Wrecker trying to do his best, but he doesn't know what to do because he's such a big guy. He can't get down there. And the only thing he can do is tell him, don't die, basically. Don't die. And he's like, don't you do it. Don't let go. We'll figure something out because we always figure something out. That's what Tech told Omega. We always figure something out. And then he sits there. He sighs before he says it, too. He's like, I know you want. I know I want it too, but I have to put us in place. So Plan 99. When have we ever followed orders? It's so beautifully done.
And one thing that makes this line so powerful. What is the main line that we associate with the clones? Good soldiers follow orders.
Now,
go ahead and tell me the Tech and the good soldier.
God, I'm getting goosebumps right now. I'm getting goosebumps.
It's the whole thing. It's like good. Only the whole line of good soldiers follow orders. Yeah, beautiful. They don't.
Beautiful stuff.
Move on. I shouldn't have said that. I don't know why I did that to myself.
I'm going to go to the first episode. I didn't tell you my first episode from the summit. The line there. This will be more amusing at least, although it is well. It perfectly sums up Tech as the unintentional comedian he always was. My favorite line from that episode. That is correct. Do you require booking? But if he goes, like, you're just going to leave, right? That's all you're going to do. You can do that. I was like, yeah. Did I need to tell you? Basically, did I need to tell you? The whole sequence of Fee was just so Tech, and it's such a great story. We get that one more time, and we get it to an almost absurd degree. He's got to know that this is. He knows what he's doing, and he's kind of protecting himself and everything else. But just the way he says it, he looks at her like, that is correct. Yes, you require. So perfect. I loved how that worked down. So, all right, let's move on. And get out of that. We go into the next segment, which is.
Did you ever hear the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise?
That in your holocron and Snokes it. This is where we take something from an episode and we want to explore it further. We want to say, what's going on in there? Let's go a little deeper dive there. Maybe a novel, maybe a book, maybe a comic, maybe an animated series. The episode later on talks more about it. I'll start for this one for the first episode. For the first episode, I kind of, as much of as a dick as a guy is, I kind of want to see more of Saw's partisans. We don't really have much on Saw's partisans overall. We have a little bit from Rogue One, a little bit from the beginnings of the Bad Batch when they weren't ready to go. Yeah, we've had some books on it, but let's go. We got a little bit from Andor as well. Actually, we got a little bit from Andor. I can see something where we get to focus more on the politics and how Saw works and how those partisans became who they were. So that's kind of, they're always the darker side. They're the more extreme side for a reason. This is why those certain people get to the level that they're at of the extremism. So a story from that side. We have a lot of rebels stories. We got the rebellion. We got the Lothal rebels. We got the Bad Batch. They're very usually good people, good morals, things of that nature. It'd be interesting to see the partisans and how they developed, where they came from. Compare maybe Saw's crew and compare them with Enfys Nest's crew for potential kind of thing, that kind of thing.
Oh, God.
I'd like to see those different cells of rebellions and how they come together or don't come together, as we know happens at times. But that's what mine for the first episode. Do you have one from the first episode?
I want to see more Raven's Peak, not just because I have a tattoo of a raven on my arm, and it's a cool ass name,
right?
Just like maybe not even like a office kind of a show, but just like more of these meetings of the Imperial higher ups.
Right.
We see like them off on their own. We see like what Hemlock's doing on his own, and Colonel Dickhead from a few weeks ago, and Rampart as well. But like, we don't see a lot of the conversations that happen when all of them are together.
Right.
I wonder what Tarkin thinks of Rampart saying, "Oh, you got this uprising." Like, they even started talking about like a clone uprising, and what are they going to do to squash it if it happens?
Right.
And then he pipes up and he said it's already happening. It's just like, okay, go further into that. Like, what are you doing? Like, give me more of that.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, I'd love to see that as well. That's a good point. I'd love to see more of the Imperial workings of things and some of those different sects. Different sects of the rebellion, different sects of the Imperials as well.
Where's Wolf Yularen in all of this?
I was hoping to see him too, honestly. I was hoping to see him as well. Although Wolf is always kind of like, I got to tell you, Wolf has always been kind of a funny thing to me as far as this goes. I feel like they have to tread lightly with Wolf. Because he was such a hero of the Clone Wars, having him be so high. He's with the Empire all the way up into at least A New Hope, so he stuck around through all of the atrocities, all the fascism.
We saw him in the ISB,
so. Right. So it's kind of one of those things. It's like you have to tread carefully because he was so moral, so good. How did he stick through? It's definitely intriguing and interesting. I kind of feel like you're going to get a little touch and go. You can kind of get a Coburn we only saw a little bit of, so maybe he does have a little bit of a darker side to him, and you're okay with it. But I do want to see. It's actually very intriguing to me to see, as hard as it is and as difficult as it would be to pull off very well. I would love to see Wolf Yular's journey. Absolutely. All right, let's go on to the next episode then. Obviously, the other episode we have from Bad Batch, Plan 99. For that one, it's something I know we're going to get more of. So it's almost like, I don't know if it even fits my own category here, but it's Emery Carr. I want to know more about her. I want to get a deep dive into who she is, where she came from, how she got to work with Hemlock, of all people, considering where her attention with Omega. Is that why she's there? Or is she there for other reasons? She just happens to be connected to Omega. Like, what came first, chicken or the egg? Kind of situation. I want to see more from what she is at that point. So, how about you? Anything from the second episode that you want to touch base on?
It's weird because I alluded it to a little bit more. We've seen a lot of Scorch. Right. Where's Fixer? Where are the rest of Delta Squad?
Right. That's
because
a good point.
I'm not happy with Scorch right now.
Right.
I want to see Rex left. Cody questioned things and left. Crosshair questioned things and tried to leave.
Right.
Why is Scorch still there? What is, have they like tweaked up his chip to where like he can't leave? Have they got something on him to where he can't leave? Because and this, I think I've said in a previous episode of this show, I love Scorch.
Right.
He's a great character. He's a very heroic character.
Right.
For him to be like seen there and he's like pushing Omega down the ramp, and it's just like, bro, what happened to you? Like, you've like fallen so far from the tree. Like, what happened?
Right. That's a good point. That's a damn good point. Yeah, I'd love to see more of that myself. I'm not gonna lie. All right. Let's move on then to our next segment. Next segment, this one is...
Hear a lot of carbon scoring here. Looks like you boys have seen a lot of action.
Seen a lot of action. Our favorite action beats for the moment. We had full They're full of action in this, the 2 episodes through. We will start with the first episode. I'll touch base with this. I had 2 ones I wanted to mention. I had an honorable mention and a one that I really honed in on. They're both kind of connected. Obviously, the biggest parts are the whole attack on Raven's Peak or whatever. There's a couple of moments that really stood out. One was when Hunter and Tech are inside after meeting with the Saw. They kind of get cornered, and that's when Wrecker and Omega join them. Like just when you think that they're completely cornered, and then all of a sudden they join up and they kind of come together. It's a great moment. But the other one specifically I liked was the whole rail cars where they're close, or the beginning rail car battle where they're both kind of close in the same one. God, that really evoked the original trilogy to me. I kind of really felt like that close battle with the lasers and the battle sequence. It just felt so Star Wars. Stormtroopers and the clone troopers back and forth, so close, battling back and forth. It was my favorite. It was just shot very well. It really got my. I was really getting excited about watching this go down. What was going to happen? It just had that in the air of like this. Anything could go down, but this is a real adventure moment. Stormtroopers versus Rebellion, even if the Bad Batch isn't rebellion per se. That was my favorite moment of the first episode. How about yourself?
Mine was the sequence when everything's blowing up, and we see Saw and the Parsons jump onto a Lambda class shuttle. And my first instinct was, oh God, Saw's flown off in the shuttle that they're trying to trace.
That's a good point. That would have been fun. Actually, would have been interesting to have seen.
I was like, oh shit, like he's flown off, like yeah. But then I thought, and this was before we saw it blow up. I was like, oh wait, they can trace it, which means they can get the flight logs, which means they can find where Tantus is. I was like, yes, okay. Because that's what they've done before. Like they've pulled flight logs in this season. They've pulled flight logs. They've traced craft. I was like, oh, they're gonna it's all leading to that. They're gonna chase Saw, get the logs from the ship, and then they're gonna go to Tantus. Nope. Nope, because then you see the tracker blowing up, and I was like, God damn it.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. It's an interesting conversation to have with them. I didn't pick up on that when they first happened, but now that I could see how you completely could.
It was like a real tense piece of action because like everything's blowing up, and you just see like Saul and the Partisans like jump on top of a ship and jump onto a ship, and I was like, oh God, no! Why did you pick that one?
I will say that I actually love the shot of the specific homing beacon blowing up shot. Like, we're gonna make sure
like it gets engulfed in the flame.
Yeah, we're gonna make sure oh, this was for naught. This whole thing was for naught. So yeah, no, completely agree. Completely agree with that. All right. How about for the next episode? I'll put it out there right away. I've already talked about it. As much as you hate it, Tech's death action sequence was beautifully done. It was brilliantly done. It was heart wrenching from score, from the way it was, from the cinematography of it, the emotional stakes. Everything was just perfectly done from the moment where it starts when he's running on the rail and the ship blasts him and he kind of falls down a little bit. Right from there, like my jaw started dropping right away. You could sense what was coming. I can't imagine a more perfectly done shot. Kind of reminded me, honestly, of another perfectly done death, the one from Rebels. If you haven't seen Rebels, probably you haven't seen Rebels yet. But if you haven't, you know what death I'm talking about. The last
5, 4.
Yeah.
Right. You got 5 seconds to get out of here. 5, 4,
exactly.
3, 2, 1. Kanan's death.
Well
That's
shot.
the one you're talking about, right?
Yes. Well shot. Brilliantly done. It reminded me of that again. So it's a perfect action beat with the emotional stakes. How about yourself?
Mine is a lot more, again, it's a lot more tense action. It's in the bar when we see, like, Wrecker's got a neck brace on, and you see all the ARC troopers have got the big man down on his knees, which is kind of like, holy shit, like, Wrecker should have been able to, like, run through all of them if he was in the shape to do it. Like, Wrecker would have been able to take them all out. But then they're all like, he's down there on his knees, neck brace on, can't even open his eyes to look at Hunter. Like, they've all got their blasters trained on him. And Hunter comes out, blasts the pistol, pointed at all of them. Scorch is standing there in the back, just looking at him like, "You feeling froggy, motherfucker? Do it. We'll blast you both." And it was just like, of all of them that probably would have tried it, Hunter's probably the crazy bastard that would have, because it made me think back to the scene with Cad Bane,
Right.
where, like, they're both like reaching for the blaster.
Yep.
I was like, oh god, Hunter's gonna get shot again. Like,
Yeah. That's funny saying that. Like, oh, Hunter's gonna get shot again.
it was like it was kind of like I wanted to be in the room saying, like, dude, just put it down.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you know how this is gonna go. Just
Right.
Just drop it and walk away.
Yeah, I agreed. I'll actually add to that. One of the best parts about that too is after the hell starts breaking loose, Neko gets in the walker and starts shooting people up. The emotionally damaged Wrecker lashing out afterwards. Like we're used to Wrecker being large and in charge and being strong, but like it just felt different watching him like take his aggressions out on these particular stormtroopers. A really powerful moment and well shot as well. So.
Done to the ARC troopers. Maybe they wouldn't be in this bloody position.
There you go. Also, I'll toss out there the Hunter looking forlornly as the shuttle goes away. Like he kind of has a look on his face. Like I can't get it. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I can't get there.
The man who usually has the answer for every situation, right. And he's like
master tactician. He can't figure it out. Oh, so good, so good. All right, then let's move on to our next segment. Not a whole lot of this, to be honest with you.
Laugh it up, fuzzball.
But there was some. In the first episode, my very favorite, almost my favorite, might have been my favorite moment in both the episodes in a way. They're playing the heist on the Raven Peak. They're sitting there talking about it. Well, can you do this? No, I can maybe break up the signal a little bit. We're going to have to do this. We only have 30 seconds. We're going to have to be precise. And then as one, the entire group Adlet. Such a perfect Bad Batch moment and something we really needed with the heartbreak that was coming. It was I couldn't have asked for a more perfect, hilarious Wrecker and crew moment. I still chuckle when I'm thinking about
it. I'll go from that then, because mine was actually kind of related to that. It was the moment where they're on the car and Wrecker goes, "Oh, this isn't so bad." Never mind.
Typical stuff. Wrecker is always good for a laugh, thank God. And we need I'm glad he's sticking around because we're gonna need him as things get dark.
Oh boy, we're gonna need him.
I mean, that's actually the way they use Wrecker too. It's funny how they do that, because they use Wrecker that fashion, because when he's sitting at the bar with Sid and when he's down, it's a down moment.
And there was that moment too where like he's looking at Sid and goes, "What did you do?
What did you do?" Yeah, that's powerful. It's very powerful. The second episode, there was very little humor. There's nothing really humorous about it. I did manage to patch together one for the segment, just because the only thing I'll say that gave me a little bit of a chuckle.
Whatever you picked, I'm going to go with that too, because I clearly can't think of it right now.
The only thing I felt that was even slightly amusing is the character of AZ. When AZ starts bringing her down to she's ordered by Hunter to leave. Her and AZ go down, and she stops, and he's like, "What are you doing?" It's the nervous Nelly C-3PO like droid worry that AZ projects. It always kind of makes me at least smile. Maybe I'm not going to be laughing out loud of this, or not going to be laughing at a fuzzball, but it did kind of provide the moment of, it's AZ. Chuckle here and there. So that's about as close as I can get to laugh in this episode.
This fuzzball was not laughing. No. I whatever. I'm gonna go with the same as you.
Closest we got.
I was not crying from tears of laughter. I was I'm still emotionally damaged.
Totally get that. Totally get that. As close as best we can do. What are you gonna say at that point? Let's move on because there's nothing else we could do there. We'll start with the next segment there called Parsecs.
It's a ship that made the Kessel run in less than 12 parsecs.
This is where we rate the episodes on a scale of 1 to 11 because we always go up to 11 here on PLD Projects. What do we rate these 2 episodes? Let's start with The Summit, the 15th episode. What do you rate that 1 out of 11? I'll let you go first, my friend.
I'm going to go with a 10.
10?
It was like the perfect build up to what we got. It was tense. Like the action was all there. Got a little bit of the comedy spread in. It was a very quintessential great Bad Batch episode.
I also give it a 10, and I have to say the main reason why, the only reason I wouldn't give it an 11 is because the episode is a setup for the next episode. So you got a little bit of a setup without as much payoff. The payoff comes the next episode. But with that being said, again, I agree. We get those perfect moments in the beginning where we get the Bad Batch. It's like almost like a greatest hits album. We get the Bad Batch solidarity, Hunter saying, oh, I don't know if we can do that. And they're saying, no, we're going to do this because they're our brother. We're the Bad Batch. Not that they say that. We're the Bad Batch. No. This is our crew. We don't leave anybody behind. We get that great moment with Tech and Fee, that unintentional comedy moment. We get Omega and Fee's relationship. We get the crew going. We get some great action sequences between them. We get the humor with Wrecker. It's all like the greatest hits of who the Bad Batch are. This is what you have grown to love about the Bad Batch. If you've watched this series, this is what you have grown to fall in love with. It's a beautiful thing. And then the end comes. So I give it a 10 out of 11 as well. It's a little bit of a setting up, but that's the only. I almost hate docking it because it does exactly what it's supposed to do. You know what I mean? But there is a little bit set up, and the payoff has to come the next episode, which we'll go into now. And I'll start this time. This one's a perfect 11 out of 11 for me. It's a beautiful piece of animation. I rank this right up there with the Siege of Mandalore for me. Quite honestly, I've grown to love the Bad Batch so much. So seeing this ripped my heart out, but even though it ripped my heart out, it was just so well done. I can knock it, but I can't knock it because it was just so well done. And not only that, it's amazing that you have that kind of thing happen in the beginning of the episode. And then usually when that kind of stuff happens, it's like, oh, it's downhill from there. But it wasn't downhill from there because it went from strength to strength. We had these moments, the soft moments with Hunter, Wrecker, and Omega. We had the betrayal from Sid. We have Hemlock's villainy, the mustache twirling villainy. We get Omega standing up for her crew. We get Omega getting captured. We get this whole, we're leaving it on a cliffhanger, so to speak. It went from strength to strength to strength. And it's amazing because this could have gone so wrong in the wrong hands, but they're in the right hands. It is a perfect piece of animation, perfect piece of storytelling. And thank God, as we didn't mention this before, I know we talked about this before, going into this last episode, we kept saying, I don't know if it's going to be season 3. It feels like they could be wrapping up. Well, they ain't wrapping up, and there better be a season 3. Because there's not a season 3, I'm going to march down to Disney's offices myself, Disney Plus, Lucasfilm, and say, you're going to have to take me out like you took Tech out, because I need to see a season 3 now. But yeah, so that's what I'm going with.
I will be joining that march to the studio with you.
I do think I think at this point it's definitive. We're going to get an announcement celebration for season 3.
Yeah.
I actually saw somebody say this, and I think it might have been the Force Center Discord, or maybe not. I don't remember where I saw it, but there's actually a speculation possibly that we could get a celebration announcement and we could have Bad Batch season 3 coming out sooner than we think. Because you got to remember that Bad Batch season 2 was delayed, but it was more delayed, like as far as when it aired. I feel like it was already done. Maybe. It was already done, so it could be, we could have it maybe a lot sooner than we think potentially, which I'm hopeful for. But either way, I'm just glad it's continuing. I mean, we don't have an announcement yet, so there's always the clue that Disney Plus could cancel it, of course, out of nowhere. But it's all pointing towards.
Will burn Lucasfilm to the ground.
I don't disagree with you, my friend. I don't disagree. All right, last segment of the day. And
you want to know my rating for the last episode?
Oh, I didn't give it to you, didn't I? I didn't even let you. I just assumed you were at the May 11. Go ahead. I'm sorry. You're right. I'm sorry.
Zilch. Nada. Buckus. You don't get good reviews for killing my favorite character. No, I'm kidding. It's an 11. It's nothing. I can't have it. Like, and yes, some of this reaction is played up for comic relief,
Right.
but that's only some of it. Like this episode got such a visceral, emotional reaction out of me, like just pure rage
Yeah.
that I was feeling. I was speechless. I couldn't believe what I just saw, even though we like talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
So like it felt like part of me died.
I hear you.
Because like we've become so like the conversations that we've had about tech, like everything, like learning to understand his neurodivergency and like him being the biggest unintentional comedian. Like there is something of everyone in that character. I would have been more okay if Hunter had sacrificed himself. Yeah, it would have bummed me out, but I would have been like, okay, that makes sense. Like it makes sense for Hunter to go to like to sacrifice himself, or Wrecker, because he's like the big man. He would have been weighing the car down, and he would have been like, okay, maybe Wrecker could have like survived the fall because he is so big.
Right.
But like Tech, who is like, and I don't mean to say this in a disparaging way, but like Tech's the weakling. He's the weakling. He's the science nerd. He's like, and it's like you pick that guy, the one that like we all love, that we like as a human, we all relate to the most.
Mm-hmm.
He's not a superhero like Hunter. He's not a big wrecking machine like Wrecker. He's just a really smart dude who's still like trying to find his way as a person, let alone as a soldier and in the galaxy. And that's the guy you took. I was just like, are you fucking kidding me? Like you and I don't mean to call him a weakling in terms of like or big alpha. Like he's the most of the normal of all of them.
Right.
He's the one that they chose to take, and I was just like, God damn it.
Because yeah, it's kind of part and parcel. I remember last season we had some grumblings is the wrong word, but some criticism was that we didn't get a lot of development for Echo or Tech. They're the two that are least developed. So it almost feels
leave Echo the hell alone. Leave Echo alone.
But this year we got a lot of Tech, and so we should have known coming. They built Tech up.
Be careful what we wish for, huh?
They built Tech up just to take us away, so to speak. I get it. I completely get it. But I agree. Again, it's 11-11 for everything you just said, and they know what they're doing. They know what they're doing. So it's part of the best Star Wars story we get. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. So.
It's definitely up there. If it wasn't before, it's definitely up there with the Mortis arc for me now.
See, Siege of Mandalore is my high point in Clone Wars, and this is Siege of Mandalore. The episode specifically was definitely Siege of Mandalore type level for me, which is amazing for me to admit, because as much as of a big clone fan I've become, and I've become a huge clone fan over the years, obviously the Force stuff and Anakin, Ahsoka, and that kind of stuff has always been my go-to as far as Star Wars goes. So this, like getting up there, that's saying a lot for me. Yeah. So all right, final segment of the night before we clean things up here. We got
premonitions.
Force Visions, where we're only do one. Obviously, not going to break through two, because obviously telling the future, well, we know the future. So we're going to take these episodes and talk about what we're going to see in the future. Could it be next season when this is hopefully renewed? I would say hopefully, because I don't want to assume things, even though it's got to happen.
I will be in the same room as Dave Filoni at that panel. There will be a season 3.
Absolutely. But it could be in Ahsoka. It could be anywhere else. Anything from the episode, what's going to happen in the future. Let me ask before we go in our Force Vision Day. This is a perfect place for me to talk about this, whether it's a part of our Force Vision or not. There are people out there who have said, no body, is he really dead? And we know we got the aspect, and that's always a good. It's always a good thing to think about, because without seeing the body, do we know for sure he's dead? We've also thrown out there a couple different segments. I mean, we do have, obviously, we have that great, we didn't even mention one of my favorite moments of the second episode was when Hemlock comes in and tosses Tech's goggles at Hunter, saying this is all we can salvage. But is that, again, he's a villain. That's what he does. It's all we can salvage because he dropped the goggles. He went off somewhere else. I don't know. There's a potential. I heard he went and fell down to the fog. There was someone there. I even saw somebody pitch the idea that Fee found out where they were going, followed him, and caught him or something. We're going to find out that he's alive, or maybe it's the Empire. I don't know. I guess my question I have for you is Tech. How dead is Tech? What is your on a percentage scale?
Dead as a dodo.
So you think 100% Tech's dead, not coming back? By you're not
dead as a dodo. And I can tell you what, because of the goggles, like Tech can't go anywhere without those goggles. Like he gets around with those, and then and I've seen these theories.
Right.
And my counterpoint is, look at the goggles when Hemlock threw them to the ground.
Right.
They're not glowing. They are toast. If Tech was still alive, he needs those goggles. Mm-hmm. He would have grabbed them and run with them.
What if he couldn't run? He might be knocked out. Could be unconscious. Yeah, I'm just saying there's ways that he might not have been able to.
That was really high up, bro. Like
I agree. Somebody said about having thrusters on his backpack. I don't remember having thrusters on his backpack either.
No.
So that's what I said.
Even though, like, that probably would have made sense if you're conducting a mission at that high up. At least carry a fucking parachute.
I agree. I will say I am 99% on board with you that I think Tech is going to be dead. They're not going to come back. But I do think it would kind of cheapen this episode in hindsight. Mostly cheapen it. I mean, at the end of the day, you have to live in the present that we have. And right now, the story that presented to us is that he's dead. And even if he ends up being alive later on, it still doesn't change the fact. It doesn't change everything we went through as we watched it. Because we think he's dead. And it would be a triumphant return, though, if he does come back to a degree. So I guess because the no body rule is a good standby rule to have, it does tick it down from 100 to 99% for me. I don't see them bringing him back in any way, shape, or form. I think it's going to be all about avenging Tech next season and everything else. But I do want to. I will leave that open, that 1% for something to happen. But
I do too, because it's not like I don't want him
to
come back. If like they go to Tantis and he's laying there looking more like Echo than Tech in like a back to tank.
Right.
While they're working on him, and they're like, "Holy shit, that's Tech! We got to get him out of here."
Right.
I will let out the biggest yell of triumph, but I don't see it. Why would they? What does the story itself have to gain from them being like, we're going to avenge Tech? Like, imagine the conversation that Omega and Crosshair are going to have about Tech.
Right.
And God help whoever's in that thing when Crosshair finds out.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And that's a big point for me, because I think a lot of this story and a lot of the characters and the relationships are going to develop simply because of Echo's death, or Tech's death. God, shut my mouth. Tech's death. And if Tech were to come back, that does kind of cheapen that kind of thing. That does kind of cheapen the growth that's going to be made from these characters. I think you need to have that heartbreak to move forward to a degree. They had heartbreak with Crosshair, obviously. They have more heartbreak now with the leaving, the death of Tech. So, yeah, no, I agree. I do think I wanted to talk about it because I saw the rumors.
Yeah,
I saw them speculate about it, and again, the whole no body thing does spark a little like, well, let's have the conversation. But I agree with you. I think I honestly would prefer him to stay dead at this point.
Yeah, and I get
dead, but
I get why it is something that we got to bring up because it is being talked about. But at the same time, you can't rely on that trope every time. You can't. I get that it's an ace in the hole, but like first is Cad Bane. Oh, the light on his chest was still blinking. That means he's not really dead.
Right.
Like I get the whole thing of no one's ever really gone.
Right.
Guess what? Sometimes people are gone.
It's a good life lesson for the Bad Batch at that point. All right, that was kind of a group force vision we have. I do have my own little force vision I want to talk about.
I got one too as well. So.
Okay, so let's break into that. You want to go first? Go ahead. Why don't you go first?
Crosshair's about to fuck a lot of people up.
Nice. I like that.
That's it. I think once Omega tells Crosshair what happens, as soon as he's able to, Hemlock. I don't know if you're familiar. I know your son's an anime fan. I don't know if you're familiar with the anime known as Death Note.
I know of it. I haven't seen
where the character writes a name in the book, and then that character dies. I currently have a Star Wars Death Note being written. Hemlock is on there. Sid's on there. Elia Kane's on there. I forget the Omega sister, her character's name. She gotta go. The pilot that flew the V-Wing that shot down the train car. I don't give a fuck what his name is. He's gotta go.
Wow. Okay. That's fair. Nice. Okay. All right. Before you start writing any more names on that list, write my name on the list, I'm going to move to my first vision then. All right. Now that I have confirmed in my head that we're having season 3, I started thinking about season 3 more definitively, because before it's kind of like I didn't want to think too much about season 3 if we weren't going to get a season 3. I have a feeling this is going to be a long-term season 3. I don't feel like we're going to get Omega back right away. I think the season's going to be about finding Omega and things of that nature, which will be very interesting, and I'll be interested to see if they can pull it off, because so much of the dynamic has always been about the crew and Omega together and their growing pains together as like these traveling fathers and this young kid. So without that dynamic, it's like separating Din and Grogu. It's like, well, does the show work as well? I don't know. We're going to find out. I think it can. I'm not saying it can. I'm actually looking forward to seeing what it does. But I feel like they're going to give it a shot. I think we're going to learn a lot. I think we're going to get a lot of Omega and Crosshair together next season while prisoners. I think we're going to get on the other side. I honestly think we're going to get a little bit of a hardened Fee coming back. Yeah. We're going to learn about Tech's death. I think she's going to join the batch as part of like a way to honor Tech, and because she loves Omega, so they're going to go to Pabu to regroup. She's like, I'm an adventure seeker. I love that stuff, but I'm gonna join your crew. I'm gonna make sure we get Omega back as well, because we have an open slot now. Obviously, we have Wrecker, Hunter. I assume Echo is gonna rejoin the crew.
I think he is,
at least for this. This is like their ongoing mission. He's like, because it's also obviously going to Tantus is also crosses over with his mission anyway.
And Tech was his boy,
right?
So I think those two were inseparable.
I almost wonder if Rex actually joined the show next season, because that's part of like for as a more of a full-on crew member. Because quite frankly, this is key again. Like for the first time since the whole Rex and Echo crew and the Bad Batch crew kind of split ways, they are both have the same goal at this point, which is finding Mount Tantus. Rex and Echo want to get the clones and what's going on with that, while the Bad Batch want Omega and Crosshair back. So it's a lot of crossover. So let's get them to work together more. So I think we're going to get more of Rex and crew. Maybe even Cody. Well, it might be Wrecker or Echo, Hunter. Maybe if he doesn't join the group and it's Wrecker, Echo, Hunter, and Cody together. You know what I mean? It could be a lot of it. We don't know. So that was one.
That's a Hall of Fame team right there.
Right.
All I'm going to say is this. Filoni, you think you're slick. Like, we see what you're doing. Clone Wars got canceled, right? Hey, no, Filoni's out like, not on my watch. I'm going to tell these stories and just slap a different label on it.
That's true. I have one more piece of my fourth vision, which I know you're not going to want to hear. So I'm going to ask you to be quiet until I finish it, and then you can tell me afterwards. I know you're not ready to hear this. You're not ready to hear this. We're going to get a redemption from Sid. And here's why. I think that Sid felt bad about it. And what's going to happen? I think, for the audio listeners, I've muted Matty, and Matty is yelling at me through the screen. But what I think is going to happen, whether we're ready for it or not, is I honestly think that Sid is going to be the one who finds out where Mount Tantus is. And Sid's going to bring that information to the crew as a kind of an olive branch. And they'll never work together again. But it'll be a payoff for the episodes where Tech, Echo, and crew like got her out of a jam and everything else, she'll realize that what she did was wrong, even if it was self-preservation, which is something she always does. She's gonna do something, not sacrifice herself because that's just out of character for her, but she will
She
go
can
out of her
sacrifice
way.
herself if she wants. I'm cool with that.
She won't, but she will. I think she will. She will be the one who finds the information and gets it to the crew. At some point, she'll come back, tail between her legs, literally, and say, "I miss Goggles. I'm sorry that happened, but I loved Omega. I love all of you. I really had a feeling for Omega. I have found this for you. Take it as a way of offering apologies."
As your co-host and your friend, I will respect your viewpoint. I will respect your opinion.
It's
I
a
will
vision.
respect of what you wish to see.
Not what I wish to see. It's my vision of what's going to happen.
Okay. However, and I hate using this word. This is not a word I like to use. That bitch has got to fucking die.
No, for goodness.
The
no,
way
for goodness,
she took the money, and did the, I'm sorry. I'm so ashamed. As she walks out with a case full of credits. If she had any integrity, she would have left that case on the bar.
Nah. I mean, it's kind of. I mean, not to a point, but some people argued back in the day when Lando betrayed Han, right? It's like the Empire is just too strong for some people, and Sid's an older woman who just doesn't have much of. The heat's on. If the heat's on, the heat is on at this point. So I get it. I get why you're angry, and I don't like it either. It actually went against some of the things I thought was going to happen, but I kind of have the feeling that Star Wars is all about redemption. It's all about redemption.
Snitches get stitches.
All right, fair enough. All right, anything else you want to bring up about the Bad Batch, the finale? Anything else you want to talk about this week, or are we to wrap things up?
If you think the Bad Batch sucks, I have news for you. It's not the Bad Batch that sucks; it's you.
That's fine. Ben has always been more aggressive of us.
No, I'm just like I'm sick of the I'm sick of the naysayers at this point. Okay, this stuff rules. Like I love. I was one of the people at first where I was like, Star Wars animation probably not for me. I'm not a big cartoon guy. And then I watched the Clone Wars and I was like, holy shit, this is great. This is awesome. And I was like, when they announced the show about the Bad Batch, I was like, really? I'll watch it, but I'm not gonna be super invested in it. Holy shit, am I invested in it? So my thing is, that was a kind of an aggressive way of me saying, give it a shot.
Right, absolutely. Okay, last up, I'll just talk about if this is your first time here, subscribing, the subscribe, all that jazz. I really appreciate you moving forward. If you want to help the crew out even more, patreon.com/PLD Products. Got a great crew: Jeremiah Morris, Matthew Kearns, Brandon Buckingham, Jeff Alterman, John Lestrina, and the rest of you. I could not do it without you. We had a lot of stuff happening on the channel, a lot of programs coming out, class action every other week, 2 Mediocre White Dudes on film every other week. Crown Jewels, a journey through Queen on the bonus channel, as you will. Other great podcasts coming up. It's a great time to be a part of PLD Projects. We'll be back next week talking just the Mandalorian at this point. We only have the one episode to discuss. So, and we'll be discussing Celebration. Celebration is coming soon. My boy Matty will be on the floor, stone cold drunk because he didn't get any of the panels. But that's okay. We'll still get some live feeds and some live interviews as we can. Stay tuned for that. That's why you got to subscribe and click that notification bell so that you know when we go live with that. But that is it. Thank you so much, Matty. Where can the folks find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Matty Gunner, Instagram Matty_Gunner. By the way, if you are on Twitter, hit the pin link in my bio. Stevie Ray, an MMA fighter from here in the UK. His daughter they are trying to raise money for her to get brain surgery. This is when I showed like the online community. In any community can be a really great thing. £99,000 raised in 2 days. So if you can give anything, hit right. If you can give anything, hit that link. If not, just give it a share. My band Mourner, Mourner, on all DSPs. New song out next week. And you can find me here every week for Holy Snokes. POD, where can the folks find You, the man of 1,000 streams.
At Paul _ News you want. As it were, you can find me every week on Holy Snokes, also on all the previously mentioned podcasts I talk about on the channel. Every once in a while, you can find me on the Christian Harloff website, the Christian Harloff website that's just come out there, replacing our Patreon. A lot of cool stuff going on there. Just on Sith Council as well there. Yes, take a look and see what's going on there as well. Otherwise, that's it, folks. I can't wait to talk to you next week. I can't wait to talk more Star Wars. Thanks a lot for sticking around with us. We will see you next week. Take care, my friends. Take care. May the Force be with you. Always.